we trying to live like there's no consequences. They tell us how to live right. We get all defensive. That's not the way that life works. Sorry to bust your bubble.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Wellness Report with Helen. I am your host, Helen Pendleton, and thank you for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon. The weather is beautiful today, and I am so honored to be here with you today. As you can see, as promised, I am solo. I told you about every 4 to 6 weeks I'll try to come on and give you guys updates, and when you send me emails, just to let you know that I do respond. And if you want me to mention you when you send me an email, then let me know that that's okay, because I know some people are private, they don't want their names mentioned. So just let me know if that's okay for me to mention you on the show. So today we're still talking about entrepreneurship, and I have some questions, really about everything, to be honest with you. So we'll start out with that. And I want to say thank you, as always, to my sponsor, Arc Laboratories in Waterford, Michigan, to whom makes this show possible. I thank them so much for sponsoring this show, and it just is a testament to their commitment to healthcare and commitment to everyone being healthy, especially in Southeast Michigan. So I appreciate that. Um, so we've been talking about entrepreneurship all month for the month of April, and it's been so great because you guys are really revved up. I can see by the calls I've been receiving and the emails that I've been receiving. You can always reach me at thewellnessreport@yahoo.com or via phone at 248-308-6692. So thanks for being committed to doing that. That lets me know that not only are you watching the show, you're paying attention, and what we say here matters. Because even though this is a community show, it's all about what you guys, want to know and want to talk about. So I've talked to a lot of my clients, and as you know, I am a medical consultant, so most of my clients are physicians who have been on the show, a lot of them. Um, and a lot of them talk about things like diabetes and heart disease, because those are kind of like the biggest issues. Whenever I ask providers, like, what is the main thing that hinders us and big health problems in the healthcare industry, especially in Michigan? And most of them tell me it's diabetes and high blood pressure. So definitely want to talk about that. The reason that I started this healthcare journey, which was January 3rd this year, was because last year I went to my healthcare doctor, my PCP, as we call him, primary care physician, Dr. She, hello. And I took a hemoglobin A1C test, and it detected that I was borderline diabetic. So they were going to put me on medication, and I asked my doctor, I said, what can I do? And is it at the point of no return? Or she says, no, it's borderline, so you can be controlled by medication. But if you change your diet, then you can see changes gradually. And I said, okay, about how long? And she says, I would give it about 6 months to notice a significant change. If you were to change today, we can do a test 6 months later, and we'd see if we can see the difference. So the hemoglobin A1C test, which shows your blood sugar levels over a 90-day period, was the test I took. It is a blood test. So they tested it. It was a 5.7, I believe. So she proceeded to allow me to check my blood sugar every day before fasting blood sugar. So that is before you eat or drink anything. So I did that, and recorded my blood sugar every morning. My levels were about 150 every day, which it's recommended if that it be really no more. Around 100 is a safe number. Not too low, not too high. You don't want it to be lower than 80, or about 80 or 70. It shouldn't be any lower, because then that's another issue. So I attempted to change my eating habits slowly because it was a gradual process to get there, you know. So I committed to cut out a lot of the carbs. And so over that 6 month period, it was lowered to a 5.5. So now we're at the beginning of the year. So I decided to just, you know, totally do a transformation of my eating habits. And so I did everything. As I told you guys before, I had made a list of the days that were special to me during the year and days that I would allow myself to have a meal of my choice and maybe a sweet of my choice, a dessert. Um, and so I came up with 28, I believe 28 days that were significant to me. You know, Mother's Day, birthdays, my son's birthday, my mom's birthday, you know, holidays and things of that sort, and anniversaries, you know, things that are important to me. And so I allowed myself to only have leeway on those days because at first I didn't have sugar at all for the first 30 days, and I committed to that. And I didn't have anything at all that tasted sweet because you have to kind of train yourself not to desire sugar. So you have to kind of withdraw from it totally at first. So I did that, and after I did, I said my blood sugar did lower. And so now I am scheduled to see my doctor in May. So we'll see what the levels are then, and I'll let you guys know because this has really been the only time in my life that I've committed to something this long. From January 3rd to today is April 24th. So it's the only time I've ever committed to something this long. So I have to say I'm going to see how things go. But the last time that I weighed myself, I do not weigh myself, but once a month roughly, um, because it was becoming an obsession. You know, it was more about the scale than my health. So the last time I weighed myself, I had lost 31 pounds. So thank God for that. God is really good. So it's really been. I feel better. I have more energy. I still crave sugar, because one of the backdrops of this, or the downfalls or pitfalls, I should say, is that whenever you eat sugar again, you develop those same cravings as before. So it's like you still have the withdrawal, the headache. So every time there's a birthday or a holiday, don't think that that I after I eat the sugar, I can just bounce back. It's a struggle every time. So, but sugar is very different now. Like, it's much sweeter. My taste buds are more alive. So when I eat new foods, I'm more acceptable to eat new foods, and they're more welcoming to my palate because it's just my taste buds are more alive because they're not drowned down or by sugar, I should say. So, that's what made me want to do this show, because I want to be accountable. And how better to be accountable but to be on TV every Monday with you guys, and you can actually see the results. And as I said, it is a challenge. But it's one that I'm committed to changing forever. It's not just about losing the weight. It's not just about how I physically look, because and you could change that. They have surgeons, and I know a few myself personally that can change that. But it's not just about the physical part. It's about how I feel, and I want to feel good. I want to be a good example to my son, and I want to have a good quality of life, because in the healthcare industry, you see a lot of people. Yeah, they live long, but they don't have a good quality of life if they don't take care of themselves. So that's what my passion is, and what I want for you guys as well, and that's what I'm aiming for. Um, so also high blood pressure. I've noticed that my blood pressure pretty much has always been normal. I've never really had problems with my blood pressure, but it's important that you check your blood pressure. And even if you don't have a history of high blood pressure, I would say you should check your blood pressure daily. If you notice any signs that it's high or not consistent, then I would go to a doctor, because that is the silent killer. And that is something that we don't take responsibility for enough, I believe. And those are things that you can do on your own. Check your blood pressure, check your blood sugar. And if your insurance doesn't pay for these items, it's definitely worth the investment. I think you can get a blood pressure cuff for about $30 at CVS or your local pharmacy. And a if you have diabetes type 1 or type 2, then your insurance will cover, most insurances covers a glucometer is what it's called. And if you have to purchase one, maybe about $50, but it's worth. They last for a few years, so it's definitely worth the investment. And no, you can't put a price on your life, so that's definitely something to talk about. And we'll have Dr. Barry on next Monday, and he'll talk more in depth about diabetes and heart disease because I know that's a passion of his. So that's something that he will go in depth with. So a lot of people have been emailing me about the fears. We talked about the fears of being an entrepreneur and the preconceived notions of being an entrepreneur. So I wanted to kind of talk about that. And as in anything new, there's always fear, there's always apprehension, there's always concern, but you never allow your fear to outweigh your desire for success, if that makes sense. So if you desire to have your own business, I think the first thing that you need to do is see if that's something that you enjoy doing. Because if you enjoy doing it, then you'll never work a day in your life. So if you're a person that doesn't like to talk, then maybe you might not want to be a talk show host. That might not be something that would be a good line of work for you. So it needs to be something that you enjoy, something that you're good at and passionate about. And if you're in line with that, then you need to figure out, well, where can I provide these services, these products or services? Is it a product or a service that you're providing? And if that's the case, are you in the location where that product or service is desirable? Because location is very important. If it's a service, it usually doesn't matter as much as a product. Because a service, you can usually sell it online or you can provide it at different locations and make it easily accessible. But for products, a lot of times that's not the case, depending on if it's something that can be transported or what have you. So that's important to know, if whether it's a product or a service. Another thing is your business name. I would select something. First of all, there's different jurisdictions and different laws depending on where you're located. If it's in the city of Detroit, I think it's LARA, the Business Commission. You'd have to go there and do a business entity search or business name search. So you'd search to see if your name of choice or your desired name is available. And if that name is available, it would let you know that there's no conflicts with that. And then there's a fee involved depending on what type of entity you choose, whether it be an LLC, which is a limited liability company, a PLLC, which is a professional limited liability, Inc., which is incorporated. There's a lot of different entities depending on the type of business that you're wanting to start. So you'd have to check and see what kind of business you're wanting to start, and then you could see if the name is available. So that would be the first thing. I would also check out competitors in the area. That's very important because you want to see who your competition is, see what you're up against, so you can plan accordingly. If you have a cigar shop and it's a cigar shop next door, it might not be the best idea for you to be at that location. So you need to plan accordingly and check out where your competitors are located and see if there's a supply and demand in that particular area that you're in. So that's very important. Location, location, location is very important, especially if you're a brick and mortar company. If you're a company that's web-based, you have a lot of more flexibility because it really doesn't matter where you're located. So if you're selling something online and you can reach, individuals via the internet or the World Wide Web, then you're pretty much okay wherever you can work out of home or things like that. So it depends on what type of business. I also got a lot of questions on my own business and why I decided to start my own business. And the pros, and which leads me to the pros and cons of having your own business versus working for someone else. Um, I decided to start my own business because I I wanted to a la carte, or I wanted to do it exactly like I wanted it. I didn't want to work for someone else that had their own vision of what they wanted in a business. I had an idea of what I wanted and my vision, and that's what I wanted. And I couldn't get that from working for someone else. Some people can, I couldn't. Another thing is that I decided to have my own business because I wanted to have an unlimited source of income. Pretty much when you work for somebody, it's kind of like a ceiling of how much you can make, or a cap on your income because of budget reasons, and rightfully so. Because me as a business owner, I have that same cap for my employees. So, it's only so far you can go if you're working for someone. And depending on who you're working for, I mean, there's people that work for Fox News or Fox Network, and they make $40 million a year. So it depends on who your employer is and what your desired expectations are. And then you have to be realistic and say, well, what are you worth? Am I worth $40 million a year, or if am I worth $40,000 a year? It just depends on how much work you want to put in it. And so I guess that that would be a pro and a con. It just depends. I think a con would be hiring the right people to work for your company. When you own your own company, you need committed individuals. And I've learned that it's very difficult to hire people with the same work ethic as me. And I've been told that my expectations are a lot higher. My background is human resources, so I think I expect more from people. And it's very difficult when you hire someone and then the next day they're telling you that their car broke down, and it's just like it makes me. I've been told that I'm kind of insensitive sometimes. I really don't want to be, but it's very difficult when you know when you're expecting and you have plans for things to go a certain way and they don't. So that would be a con, I would think, of having your own business. Hiring and firing it's difficult because sometimes you have to make executive decisions that are not very comfortable. And you have to say, well, it just is what it is. If the person is not working out, it's not personal, it's professional, and you have to say to yourself, you know, is my company worth more than their feelings? And most of the time, I hope you would answer yes, because, yes, people's feelings matter, but, I'm building a legacy and an empire here, and I can't do that with people that are not team players. So sometimes you have to make those unfortunate executive decisions, and they're not, always nice. Another con would be flexibility, or I'd say a pro if you're a business owner, would be you have more flexibility on appointments and selecting things because you don't have to go by a strict um, time schedule, 9 to 5. If you have a lunch meeting, you can kind of be flexible with your time more when you're a business owner versus um, working for someone. Pretty much, if you work for someone, you could probably be insubordinate if you don't work during those business hours of 9 to 5, or if you try to take a longer lunch or something. You could probably get in some trouble if you don't. But working for yourself, you have a little more flexibility with your time schedule. So that's, very important too. And another thing is, uh, what are some of the pitfalls that I faced with starting my own business? I was asked that. Um, it was always that fear of not being able to meet payroll. That's always been a fear. That's a fear of a lot of small business owners because by law, you have to pay people when services are rendered. And when, work is rendered, you have to pay them on that expected pay date. So I was always, so a lot of times I sacrifice not making money of my own to pay people. So that was a fear, and still is sometimes, but not as much so when you're a little more established and when you have a more established company. So I thank God for that. That it's definitely gotten easier over the years, but it takes a lot of hard work, and work ethic is really, really important. And I think that to me, you have stronger work ethic when you work for yourself because you don't really have anyone to answer to, so you have to be accountable. And you can't make excuses. You have to work when you're sick sometimes. You have to work when you're extremely exhausted and tired. You have to work to cover for people that can't work or, that have made excuses. You have to do the work for them. So I think that it really, really strengthens your work ethic, if it's not already strong. I noticed like I haven't missed a day of work in 10 years. And I think that a lot of it has to do with knowing that every day matters. And saying to myself every morning when I got to get up at 4:45 in the morning that okay, we're going to take it each thing at a time. I'm going to knock down each obstacle, each roadblock at a time until this day is over. And that's just, and before you know it, 10 years passes by. And, I get my work ethic from my parents, and a lot of us do. So a lot of the way you are has a lot to do with who raised you. And my mother and father, they both were hard workers, and they worked for years and didn't take. My dad worked 30 years for the same company and didn't take a day off. He received an award for never taking a day off, never took sick time or anything. And a lot of that has to do with wellness, taking care of yourself. And I looked at my father for the most of his life. He was 6'1", 175 pounds. Um, Always, tried to stay fit and took care of himself. And so that's important. And I think that we need to make sure that we try to do those same things and get back to that old school work ethic that we were raised with. So that's important. Do I have advice for anyone that wants to start their own business? Yes, prepare. Do a detailed, and I mean detailed business plan, and do what if scenarios. What if you run out of money? What if, and you need rainy day money? You're going to need money to cover you in the event that one of your payers or something happens or anything. So, you definitely have to plan. And if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So that's a good model to follow. Um, and keep the questions coming. A lot of you had the same questions, so I kind of like lumped them together. As far as getting in the healthcare industry, it has prepared me for, my life ahead and planning for the future as far as like life insurance and planning for my inheritance, which is my son. And it makes you realize that, tomorrow isn't promised. So we need to plan. It's not just about me, it's about my inheritance. And I want my son to have it much easier than I had it, just like my father and my mother wanted me to have it easier than they had it. And they succeeded in that. So I want to repeat that trend. So that's something important in any business, is to make sure that it's something you're passionate about and something that you can leave an inheritance for your children and your children's children. I'd like to thank my sponsor, Arc Laboratory, and also K Chiropractic. I went last Wednesday for my consultation as promised, and I was greeted by warm faces, and everyone was so nice. And I know they knew me from the show, but I can just tell how they interacted with the patients that were there. It was a full house inside. So Dr. Ware and K Chiropractic is very busy. So thank God for all of you that inquired, and I forwarded you the information. Don't forget to tell them that you heard about them on the Wellness Report with Helen, because I do get credit for that. So make sure you mention me. But if you need any information, you can contact K Chiropractic Clinic. It is located at 30827 Hoover Road in Warren, Michigan. And their direct phone number is area code 586-751-8984, and you can contact Dr. Ware for a chiropractic service and the Ultra Slim weight loss system, which is definitely something that I'm going to try. I decided to go with 10 treatments, and they do have in-house financing too, which I'm going to take advantage of. So that's something that, if you don't have the money right now, that they do offer, which I think is great because it's not credit based. So I think a lot of people can fall into that category, and not just that. Sometimes you don't want to use your credit for things, so it's important to have that option. So that's really good to know. I also want to thank Classic Home Care in Dearborn Heights, who is a company that I refer a lot of patients to for home care services. If a person is homebound and they are unable to care for themselves and they need nursing or social work or physical therapy at home, because a lot of the patients I deal with, they've had recent falls and things like that, so they kind of need to be rehabilitated back into good health. So there's very few companies that I deal with when it comes to that, because I work very closely with Classic to make sure that they're ensuring the best care for the patients that I refer. So you can contact me if you'd like to get in touch with Classic for a home care service for anyone that may be homebound. And once again, my number is area code 248-308-6692. You can also reach me via email at thewellnessreport@yahoo.com. Also, I want to remind you guys, Saturday, August 26th, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. is the summer wellness event at World Deliverance Temple. Bishop Roy Ferguson, who's a friend to the show. I want you all to try to come out to that event because it's free to the public. And it's really great because they're doing blood pressure checks, they're checking blood sugar. We'll have a panel of at least about 6 providers. So I definitely want you to try to come out and take advantage of those free services. A lot of people get diagnosed with diabetes and heart disease, so I want you to come out and take advantage of those free services. Once again, I'd like to mention Petty Paint Company was my cousin. If you'd like any paint services, he's very good and very professional. You can reach him at area code 586-420-0888. Once again, thanks to my producer, Sean Watkins, and thank you for watching the Wellness Report with Helen, and have a blessed day.
Why we trying to live like there's no consequences. They tell us how to live.